All right, welcome back to another ride with me to the gym. I'm starting this one a little bit later on the drive, so I'm going to be pulling up to the gym here very shortly. Today is going to be a cardio day, so looking forward to that actually. Most likely going to do, I'd say, about 15 to 20 minutes of steady state, and then we'll do a couple of shorter interval pieces to finish things out. Get somewhere in the range of about 40 minutes of total work is what's going to happen today. All right, today I want to very quickly talk about the process of losing body fat, and the context or inspiration for today's topic is based on getting a question about somebody trying to wrap their head around, hey, I have body fat to lose. I want to lose body fat, but I also want to have more of that toned appearance. So I want to look lean and muscular. I'm just not totally sure where to start. It's somebody who hasn't regularly been active. They're not a complete sloth or just sitting around doing no activity, but they have not developed a consistent routine in a few years at this point, and they just weren't sure, would it make sense to focus first on losing body fat, or would it make more sense for them to focus first on building muscle? And what I shared with them, because this, full disclosure, is very near and dear to my heart, because when I first started out, I wasn't quite sure where I was necessarily going to start. I knew that I wanted to lose weight. This would have been back in 2010 when I actually decided to really take my fitness seriously. I wanted to lose weight, and I decided that the way I was going to figure that out was first I would actually start lifting weights, because I had not consistently ever lifted weights in my entire life. So I figured, let me start with that, because I know when I'm going through this process, at the end, I know that I want to look really jacked. So I know I'm going to need the muscle thing. So I decided I'm going to work on building muscle or lifting weights prior to really going all in on cardio. I didn't really like cardio from the jump, but I'm going to start there just because I know that at the end of this process, I want to be jacked. And being able to understand how body fat is actually lost is really, really important in this process. So that's something that I shared when this question was asked, is trying to, in the most simple terms, explain that body fat is lost primarily, I'd say somewhere, studies will be anywhere in the 80 to 85% of the body fat that you lose is going to come through exhaling. So carbon dioxide. Like, that is, it's kind of wild. Sometimes that shocks a lot of people, but generally 80 to 85% of your body fat loss happens through exhaling. And then the rest of it, on average, is happening through sweating, through overall loss of water. Like, that's really where that comes from. So the myth that, I remember that saying, sweat is fat crying. It's not completely false. I'm not crying, but there's an over exaggeration of this correlation between how much you're sweating and how much that means that you're losing body fat. So really think more about it in terms of sweat is the loss of water, not specifically a massive contributor to the loss of body fat, even though you may feel that way. So just a heads up on that. But in this conversation, something that was a misconception, and this is why it was helpful to have that conversation, something that was a misconception was that basically the way that you could achieve this more lean and jacked appearance would be to replace the body fat with muscle. So have the muscle like take over the body fat, and that's not the way that it works. Think about it like we're looking at a piece of or big circle, and there are slices of that circle, slices of the pie, if we were using like a pie chart, that represent your organs, your bones, things like that. Like that for the most part, is going to stay what it is. That is going to take up a certain percentage of that pie, and that is not going to significantly change. So again, your organs being things like your heart, your lungs, your brain, like just your organs. Then you've got your bones. I do understand the conversations around like bone density and bone loss and things like that. But for the purposes of keeping this conversation under 8 minutes, let's simplify that, and we're going to say that your bones are going to take up a piece of that pie, and that piece of that pie is permanent. That one is there. It's the display pie. It's that fake pie that they bring out when they're trying to sell you desserts. It stays there. Then the rest of that pie is made up of your body fat and then your muscle. So as we are working through the desire to get toned and lean and lose body fat, what happens is you reduce the amount of that pie that the body fat is taking up, and you increase the amount of that pie that the muscle is taking up. So that's basically the way that it works. So you don't necessarily replace one with the other. It's that one reduces, so the body fat gets less of the pie because those cells are getting smaller and smaller and smaller, while the muscle takes up more of the overall pie. And then if we, without overcomplicating, if we zoom out like really big, that pie, if you're talking about relating it to weight, so say somebody is 200 pounds, then their pie is a certain size. Um, let's say that they get down to 175 pounds. You still have those three different slices of that pie that take up the 175 pounds. So all that just to say, if you are somebody who is looking to get toned, looking to get lean, and you're trying to figure out, okay, what should I focus on? Should I focus on fat loss first, or should I focus on building muscle because I know that I've got fat to lose, but I also want to have a lean and toned, like jack appearance? It depends. There's questions that we need to ask about your history of especially of physical exercise, and then also getting a understanding with your nutrition history. Like, what is your consistency with that or lack thereof look like right now? So if you were looking for, if you stuck all the way to the end of like, okay, he's going to tell me exactly what to do, I am not sorry. I'm not going to tell you exactly what to do. What I'm going to tell you to do, I guess exactly, is to take the understanding of how the process of losing body fat actually works, and then take at least 3 weeks to document what are your current nutrition habits, what are your current exercise habits, how often are you exercising, and that includes cardio, that includes lifting weights, and that includes going for walks, getting steps in, and then take those same 3 weeks and also get an understanding of how much food am I eating. So how much protein am I intaking, how much fat, how many carbs, getting an overall understanding of what your calorie intake looks like. Once you have an understanding of where those things currently are, then you're in a much better position to be able to understand, okay, where's going to be my best place to start? And for most people, it's going to be to first gain some level of consistency and structure with just the basics, the basic everyday type stuff. All right. So just wanted to pass that on, past the 8 minute mark, and it's time for me to get in here and go get this cardio done. So hope you have a great day.